Hello, ladies and gentlemen. That actually went a lot faster than usual. I'm Steven. I'm here with MTarget.
How's it going?
And yesterday was the end of TI7.
Which means that today is the beginning of TI8.
That's true. We are officially at the build to TI8, ladies and gentlemen. And it's worth, I guess, taking a look back on that tournament that just happened.
You know,
It was okay.
Kind of big deal.
Kinda. But, you know what? We'll throw Valve and PGL a bone and cover their little rinky-dink event. So
just 24.746 million.
And it could have been 25.
I really don't want anybody to buy anything more. Like, as much as it's like before we wanted it to be between 23 and 24 for our levels, now I really don't want it to hit 25 because next year it's going to break 25. Just because everybody wants it to break 25.
Yeah, I mean,
although to be fair, 25 million is so close we could break 30 million next year. Oh god, that's
actually,
yeah,
I guess that is a lot.
That's a lot of money.
And Valve gets most of it.
75%. Although a good Valve gets about 50% of it because about half of that supposedly goes to production and work.
Yeah, I mean, the Key Arena doesn't. They got to pay rent.
Yeah, Key Arena's not. I mean, that's something that, as much as we complain about the tickets for TI, what, like 150 and or whatever it was for the week plus that's normally the cost that Key Arena gets for a single seat for a single one-night event. So when you're getting midweek tickets for $50, Key Arena is like Valve is paying extra to cover for that.
Yeah, I mean,
so Valve spends a lot of money on TI. Now Valve makes a lot of money on TI. We're not playing the Riot game here where Riot pretends to lose money on their esports. Valve makes a lot of money on TI, but Valve does also not make. They don't make 75% of 25 million. They make like 50% of 25 million.
Yeah, which is still tens of millions of dollars.
They made $12.5 million.
Yeah, they aren't as cruel and corporate as they could be. They're just they're only pretty cruel and corporate.
Yeah, because there are people out there who would pay $500 to go to TI.
Yeah, like there's some nerds out there. But anyway, Team Liquid won.
Frankly, if they told me that I had to pay $500 for next year, I probably would save up for it. Dude, I'm tired of not going to TI.
Because I'm tired of flying. I've done enough of that in my life. But anyway, Team Liquid won. It was great. It was fun. It was, I would say, their run through the lower bracket was one of the most impressive stretches in TI history.
Yeah, it was. I think they played not the highest number of games possible because obviously, like, if they
they didn't have 2 out of 3s.
They didn't play 3-3-3. They only played like 2-2-2, but they did lose 0-2 in the first round.
Yeah,
before getting bumped down.
So they lost 1-2.
1-2, yeah.
And but I mean, Team Secret, I guess, would be the easiest team that they played against.
Let me pull up the bracket, the actual bracket, not my dream bracket that I knew when I filled it out was not going to be right. Like, as much as I tried to pretend that it was.
Hey, you reach for the stars. You reach for the stars. You shot for the moon.
And I mean, TNC just kind of they hit a bad. Excuse me, they hit a bad game when they lost.
Yeah. And I mean, there's no real shame in losing to LGDFY and then OG. But
so yeah, Team Liquid played Invictus Gaming.
Invictus Gaming upper bracket.
Secret. They lost to Invictus, but yeah, they beat Team Secret. They beat Team Empire. They beat Virtus Pro. They beat LGD. They beat LFY. They beat Newbie. Yeah, the easiest team out of all of that is Secret. Team Empire. The work that Resolution did easily got him a 7-figure paycheck for his next contract. Wherever Rezo goes.
He earned it.
Going somewhere that has deep pockets. The only country that won't be looking at him is China.
Probably.
And that's because the Chinese teams just insist on speaking in Chinese for everything. And
which, is that right?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's like you've got North American teams that insist on speaking in English. I mean, again, it works best when everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
So I mean, because China will bring in like Malaysian players who also
Yeah,
speak not like
uh,
Chinese only.
we've talked about Russian mob money in the past because
That
that's
is true.
basically what all Russian companies run on in sports. So he's going to get a pretty sizable check, I imagine, from a CIS team. And he will have earned it because, yeah, he, with that performance on Empire, that is easily, like, he's the hottest free agent right now, and he's probably going to end up being the highest paid carry player in Dota 2
Navi.
after that.
Navi just got rid of Pycat, so they could totally pick him up. Because Virtus Pro is not touching him. Virtus Pro is going to try and keep their team together at least one more split.
And they probably should, because Virtus Pro, all things considered, did have a very good run. But Rezo, yeah.
I also don't think Rezo would fit with their playstyle.
That's valid. He's a more traditional carry, but he's also a very good traditional carry, I guess. And yeah, Navi would be the most obvious landing spot for him, just because I imagine they're going to blow up their team outside of Dendy. And yeah, he is really good and showed it again. And he's got that Team Ukraine connection from WESG.
It's true.
So he's gonna get a good chunk of money thrown at him, and he will have earned it because that Team Empire overperformed, and it was because of him. But so Liquid beats Secret, Empire, Virtus Pro. I mean, they were one of the picks to win, and rightly so, and they looked good. Even, they knocked off LGD Gaming, and we saw how good they were.
Yeah. For Virtus Pro, I will note I was wrong. I said Virtus Pro, their biggest issue was late game. But they managed to handle late game scenarios. Not all of them, but they were able to survive them better than they used to be able to. So, props on Virtus Pro figuring it out and working on their issues, which definitely made them a stronger contender. But, Team Liquid was that team. They said it at the event several times, almost too much, quite frankly. But Team Liquid was able to say, fine, you want a death ball? We're going to do Rat Dota. Or we're gonna do split push Dota, or we're gonna play our game, and our players are mechanically skilled enough that we can manipulate the meta in that manner.
Yeah, they have their game, and even if they, like you said, even if they got outside of their game, they were able to kind of drag it back into their game, which is a good thing. We see teams try to play other teams' games, and it very rarely works out. Virtus Pro, like I said, they play their game, and if you're not playing their game, they make you play their game, and they're probably going to win their game.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, we talk about that all the time. The playing, your opponent's game. It's like playing to win versus playing to not lose. Liquid just did a great job, and as somebody said on the panel. And we're kind of getting to rambly stage here. We had a blocked script for what we wanted to talk about, and that went out the window in the first 30 seconds. My bad.
No problem.
But was that nobody knows what the meta is in 7.06 yet. We all think we have our own ideas, but even at TI, Deathball was the closest thing to a real meta, and the team that won wasn't playing Deathball.
Yeah, they were playing like hard split push.
Yeah. So
they had, who were their most successful characters near the end? Veno, Terrorblade.
So fun fact, Broodmother had one of the highest win rates because they're the only team that played it.
Yeah, and split push.
Yeah, we had 108 or 109 heroes picked,
which is absurd. That's pretty much the entire.
I would like to actually. I wonder if
it's pretty much the entire character pool.
I'm curious who didn't get picked. I know Techies didn't get picked because Bible Thump.
I mean, that he is not being able to just stack mines on top of each other anymore is just makes him feel less effective.
Yep.
Yeah. Being able to just randomly blow people up as easily as defeats the purpose of techies. But anyway, so I'll keep going.
No, that can't be right.
I'll keep going from here though. So after Virtus Pro, who again ended up looking, even though they I think got 6th place in the end, they looked better at TI than they did in previous tournaments. They looked very, very strong. Yeah, 5th, 6th. Then from there, they end up playing against LGD Gaming. And I mean, I was just hyping up Virtus Pro for beating LGD Gaming, but I mean, look at LGD Gaming in the lower bracket. They 2-0 Digital Chaos. They 2-0 OG. They 2-0 IG. That's a really that's an achievement. They
Yes, it
were
is.
very, very good. So for Liquid to beat them, again, really impressive. LGDFY, I mean, they looked unstoppable at both in the group stages, then into the upper bracket until they got beaten by New B.
Mm-hmm.
They looked, and Liquid beat them, and then they beat New B, who knocked off LFY and IG. So,
yeah,
I mean, that is so again, Secret, Empire, Virtus Pro, LGD, LFY, New B. They beat all of them. That's a murderer's row.
definitely. So really quickly, because I'm pulling up the data on dotabuff.com, Dotabuff, please sponsor us. There were 6 heroes that were unplayed, that were not picked. So, and those were Bane, Lion, Spectre. Spectre I find interesting because I think that Spectre would have done well with Liquid. That said, Liquid had enough other options open that I think Spectre was just too far down the list.
I would quickly insert that Spectre is the go-to pub pick or pub counter pick for Sniper, and with Sniper was actually kind of common-ish. You know, he wasn't every game, but he did show up.
A lot of times Sniper was last picked, so you can't really counter pick a last pick Sniper.
Yeah, I guess.
So that was the big thing. Then Techies, Tiny, and Wraith King. Now, if we go to picks and bans on their website here and sort by that again, Lion and Tiny were not picked, but were both banned once.
Okay.
So that means that neither picked nor banned were Bane, Spectre, Techies, and Wraith King. And we all have seen in the pub meta or even in open quals, Spectre, Bane, and Wraith King have been played in competitive. So really right now, we're in a spot where everybody is relatively viable.
Yeah.
Not incredibly so, but I mean, when you have 100, when you have 4 heroes that are ignored, that's nuts. I had a friend who was complaining about how long the draft was, and I said, well, that's what happens when there's more than 20 heroes that are viable.
Yeah. And I mean, it was entertaining for me. It was, PPD was discussing it on the stream where the drafts are interesting because there's mind games and there's so much X's and O's and so much theory crafting. And the drafts in this year in particular were really strong in that regard. And like you said, just, you're trying to figure out who that last pocket pick is going to be that blows up the entire draft of the other team. And we saw that sometimes with, the last pick Sniper for LFY, for example. In game 1 against Liquid, they pull that out and Liquid just has no real way to get to him. And it was just like, oh, that's genius. And that happened several times.
Yeah, there were some beautiful, and there were games that were definitely won in the draft stage, particularly in the losers bracket finals. Liquid won. Again, there were some comeback almosts, but not quite. So it was good. Since we were talking about meta and just all of that insanity, do we want to go ahead and do predictions really quickly? Heroes, teams, players, or heroes, teams, and turn.
Just want to quickly note that, Liquid is amazing. I feel a little bit uneasy about best of ones at the start of the lower bracket, but I can understand it from a time constraints perspective. Yeah. I wonder aloud whether it's a good idea to keep doing that. And I also wonder aloud whether or not it's a good idea to do kind of uneven scheduling of the teams. Like, did Team Liquid kind of get a little bit of an advantage on Newbie by warming up against LFY?
But, I mean, and as far as that is concerned, I will always say, because we've seen it happen, if Newbie had been able to take advantage of what Liquid did in losers bracket finals, they should have been able to use that to their advantage. And they tried, they tried counter picking, they tried counter banning, but they couldn't figure out what to ban, and it ended up killing them. And if it had been like a 3-1 with some closer games, or a 3-2, like if it had gone to the full best of 5, then yeah, I think we could have that discussion. But when Liquid just steamrolls them 3-0, I really don't think that, oh, they got the warm up is very, great. And especially the other thing is that in double elimination tournaments, teams always complain about having to play 2 games or 2 series when you're the loser. And it's like, yeah, that's called the winner brackets advantage, because we don't do bracket resets in Dota, because we don't want to be playing Dota for 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, if it was...
Could you imagine having to win
multiple best of 3s?
2 best of 5s in the finals? Even if that was all that it was you had a finals day dedicated just to that. That's 10 games of Dota that you theoretically could play back to back.
Yeah, that's agony.
Especially if any of those games go to, I mean, if you hit 45 minutes in game, that's a full hour for that one match between picks and bans in the game itself. That doesn't include time before or after. So that's a 12-hour day right there before you hit hour-long games. Yeah, that's not fun. So no. I think that's okay. I like the way that's set up, unless we want to go back to single elimination. But
which I am not keen on.
I do like double elim here. I think that it has its place, but I think for TI, double elim is the way to go.
Like for a minor, I could absolutely see single elimination being viable.
Yeah. And maybe even for some of the smaller majors, like the majors that are like, okay, like, well, there's a major like here that nobody really knows about, that's going to be on like a shorter schedule. Yes.
Yeah.
But like when you've got like E-League major, or not that they're doing one, or like Epicenter needs to be double elim.
Yeah, in my mind, it's like a matter of the prize pool size, basically. Just because when you're dealing with when it's a $10.8 million top prize, I want that to go to the best team of the tournament.
Yeah,
and I don't want a single lucky stroke to really decide that. And naturally,
you get hit twice lucky. That you don't get the excuse of those were both luck.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, obviously Dota does have some luck involved. I mean, there was that freaking double damage rune.
The $10 million double damage rune. Like, yeah, okay, whatever, guys. Like, that fight was going their way either way, whether or not that damage rune was there.
Possibly. Yeah, did anybody else other than me say that?
I saw a good UCAP, LD.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have a good dad caster sense of humor.
Okay. But yeah, anyway, and what was my last thought? I don't know. I don't remember anymore. Anyway, going into predictions. So before TI7, we came together and gave a set of predictions for the compendium, and I would say, generally speaking, went pretty well.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, they're
about as well as
defend a couple of them, because there were some that were just like, oh god.
I'm gonna share my screen and pull them up so we can see them.
Okay.
All right. Share screen. Share. Okay. Can you see?
Yes, I can.
Oh, I should probably actually go in there. Predictions.
Yes, you should.
So let me do mine, because you actually can brag really comfortably about how yours went. Because your heroes went. You did a great job, I think. So, which team will win? I went well for a lot of this. I assumed that Evil Geniuses was going to actually do well. They didn't do so well. I was expecting EG and VP to really kind of not dominate the tournament, but both place very, very highly. And EG, generally speaking, gets the better, like this kind of stuff, statistics out of it. Or at least they did to this point. So having EG get washed out really quick blew up my predictions for teams. I did get this one right, so that makes me happy. Most kills in a game, VP. That was kind of an obvious pick. Highest kill average, LFY, followed by TNC. Yeah, Verse Pro way down there. But
that also has to do with how few games VP got to play.
Yeah, VP didn't actually play too many. Shortest game, EG and LFY. I mean, I'm surprised at how many short games EG was in.
Well, if you look at it,
Looking over it.
you've got those 4 games that are all sub 20, and I'm pretty sure that both of those were out of their 2 best of 2s, or EG has 1 best of 2, that 15 and 16-minute game, and or actually no, it's LGD, so yeah, that doesn't even work.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's LFY's 15-26 and LFY's 20-27. So those are all from like 2 specific series where they just kind of, they really outmatched their opponents.
All right, so Virtus Pro was in some of the shorter games, but yeah, EG all over that. The one category where I didn't go EG in this block, huh?
Yep.
Cloud9 I had for most assists in a game and highest game length average. They didn't really win at all, and that kind of removed them from any of these categories. So, like they got destroyed in the group stages, and they got smacked around by Empire in the main event, which was very sad to watch. But it happens. It wasn't especially inconceivable.
I think we should have done a little bit of prediction tweaking when Empire had Rezo. I mean, part of that had happened so close, but like highest game length average went to Empire. And part of that was because Empire went from having this scrappy, fast team fight game to having just hold it down and let Rezo get big.
Oh, so that
changes things drastically. I mean, yeah, Cloud9's close. So I'm not saying we were wrong, but I'm saying
I didn't think I was even in the ballpark with them.
Yeah, but like for example, fewest different heroes picked. If Rezo has a significantly deeper pool in a lot of ways. So yeah, pull out, get rid of Empire because Empire picked 48 instead of 32. So
most different heroes. I mean, that was always a matter of picking a team that goes far, which is why I picked Evil Geniuses. They didn't. Ended up going to newbie with Team Liquid right on their heels, which makes sense since they were in the finals.
Although EG actually executed an incredibly small hero pool this tournament with only 33 picked, and that is something that definitely should be noted here. Is that this tournament significantly rewarded the capability to not only have plans for different groups of 5 and being able to pick a lot of different heroes. 54, 53, 49, 49. Yeah, sure, Team Secret and Fnatic didn't go that far, but like, that's a lot of heroes.
That is a lot of heroes.
So Evil Genius is sitting down there at 33. That's part of your problem. When you're only picking Quap for Sumail, when you're only picking, a couple, it gets really easy to counterpick you.
Yeah, and that's going to come up in the heroes not too long from now, or in the individual players categories.
I don't know if I want to talk about that. You can. I'm not.
Fewest different heroes. I mean, I went with LGD. I wasn't expecting them to make as deep a run as they did.
Yep. Again, they scraped in.
Too far out from it, huh?
Yeah.
Even with a lot of games played, they only picked 44. But ultimately went to Digital Chaos. Shouldn't be too surprising. They had a very I feel like they had a short run, but also kind of I feel like they retreated into a let's figure out what the meta is right now and try and play it kind of strategy.
That was another problem. Is that they were like, okay, throw Abed on Quap. And they kept putting him on like 2 or 3 heroes, and they kept trying to like build like 1 or 2 specific strats. And that's how you get 32 instead of 40. I mean, part of that's also again the losing, but
Liquid had their own. Again, it'll take time to see what ultimately the meta really is in this, because like you mentioned at the start, don't
forget that we're coming up on 7.1 probably here.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
Or 7.0. I mean, we're either going to see 7.07 as like another about that size patch, or I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw a bump to 7.1.
That's very possible
for the big baby boost, if you will. Just to bump up.
I mean, when it comes to discussing metas like this, I mean, I should note that it's so dynamic. I mean, take for example Marvel versus Capcom 2. That's a game that enjoyed really strong tournament play for over a decade, and that still got kind of refined. It took over a decade for it to really be fully figured out. Cable was regarded as a top pick band or top pick kind of really, elite top tier character. He was on basically every team, and that got honed down with time. It got honed down into the Storms and Magnetos, and then Cable got kind of pushed out. And there's Captain Commando, who was an assist character, specifically brought in to do his assist moves. And this is tangential and getting very rambly, but it took over a decade for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to be fully figured out. So a few
it's still
months.
Not totally figured out. Let's be honest.
It probably isn't. So yeah, a few months to figure out a game that's in its own way bigger than Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Yeah, it's not nearly enough time to figure out what the real true meta of this is, and that goes for any version of Dota 2.
No, definitely. I think like 6.8 8 was a pretty long one, and 6.8.4. Those were the two metas that I think that when I think of like a long stable meta, or just a long time period to figure them out, those are the two that I think of. 6.8.4 was a much more solid meta where it was pretty stable. 6.8.8 had a little bit of or 6.8, yeah, 6.8.8, 9, 6.8, whichever one that was, had a pretty fluid but understood meta. So
yeah. So going over to players now. So again, I thought EG was going to do a lot better than they did. And you can see that with my Sumail Arteezy. And yes, I pronounced it differently for each pick. With Arteezy in there. OG didn't work out super well for me. And I had the random Owie and VP picks with OP. But none of them ended up panning out. And I mean, that's honestly not to say don't blame me, but don't blame me. These are all kind of very very theoretical.
With player predictions, one, we said, and two, everybody always says that you should analyze the tournament and everything else. And we weren't sure when we went into these, what you're going to get. And part of that has to do with, if you really want to get player predictions right, you've got to spend an inordinate amount of time in the stats sites, digging up numbers and figuring it out. Otherwise, you got to go with your gut. And 90% of the time, I think of it as gut check here. Just you throw it out. They're free points if you get them. Otherwise, oh well.
And not only that, but even if you do pour over the stats, if I recall correctly, this one is, Cuckoo and Rezo was up near the top for a lot of these. And that on top of the fact that we didn't even know he was going to be there.
Yep.
Even if we did know he was going to be there, how much information is there on a Rezo-led Empire? There is none.
Yeah.
Like,
although we should have known the most different heroes was going to be Miracle. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there was lots of cause to pick somebody from VP. I think one of the most common was Lil. I went with no one because I thought that there would be more options in terms of the mid than there actually were.
We had 12% of the votes. Let's see, where's Lil? Lil, 22.71. So yeah, a lot of people thought that Lil was going to get a lot. Yeah, obviously, a lot of that is also the Russian fan base expecting VP to do well, and Lil being their flex player.
Yeah, and I went, like I said, I went with no one. Same idea because VP, had their run at the summit where they picked different heroes all over the place, and that said to me that they're going to pick a lot of different heroes, and they're a good enough team to make a long enough run that they will be able to really, have the larger sample size to make that a reality. Didn't work out, but there was logic to it.
Yep.
And different players, or having a team that goes far is really important in that. So, lowest death average, Ame. Ramses, I was in second place. That's something. Most kills in a game, where was OP even in that? Nowhere. Well,
Let's see. Most kills in a game. Let's
yeah.
see.
Yeah, it was
Cuckoo's in there twice because they messed up his name. That's always fun.
Yeah, no big deal.
I had Fada thinking that he would, and Fada's not even top 20. I really expected to see a whole lot better from C9/NP.
Yeah. They flopped remarkably hard. Like their stretch at the Manila Masters, Zotac Cup, Summit, they performed respectably in those tournaments. I was expecting them to perform respectably at TI, and they looked absolutely awful in the first few days of the group stages. Like truly, truly bad.
Yeah.
And they never recovered from that really. They ended up having a not so bad record at the end because they won, I think, all 4 of their games on day 4 of the group stages and finished with a 6-10 record. But like in terms of their actual X's and O's plays, like they were bad. And have to worry about whether or not that team is even going to exist in a month. Like in terms of who's going to get blown up, I'd put them.
I assume that every team outside of the top 4 is going to experience some significant roster shakes, and even the teams that aren't Liquid are going to experience some major roster shakes. And the only reason that I think that Liquid is safe is because they are a team that Kuroki put together for the express purpose of winning ATI. And sure, they did it. That doesn't mean let's throw it out and start over. But I think that the team was built to last. Similar to OG for a while. It's not the EG. Okay, we need to make the next change. With the AUI kick, which I still don't know how I feel about all of the Evil Geniuses decisions in the last 2 years. Quite frankly,
no, since TI5 at least.
Yeah,
I mean,
but point being is that I think that Liquid is safe. I think that.
But Liquid is safe and nobody else really is.
I think that a couple of the Chinese teams that took top X, we might see a player or 2 shift, but I think that like Newbie will probably stay the same. LFY, LGD might do some like internal shuffling.
I was about to say I'm fully expecting LGD and LFY to kind of get shuffled together a bit, which may or may not pan out for the better because they didn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but I don't think many people actually predicted that they were going to make this kind of a run.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I think Virtus Pro, we might see a couple changes, but not a whole lot there just because of the way that Virtus Pro has been handling themselves or presenting themselves. But everybody else, expect to see dramatic roster changes in the next weeks.
And let's bounce over to this real quick. So Heroes and Tournament are the 2 kind of sections of the predictions where you could actually like apply logic and look at the numbers and really get an accurate idea of what's going to happen. And
without going insane using Monte Cristo runs and everything else.
Yeah.
Or Monte Carlo, excuse me.
And I think I did a pretty good job. I basically guaranteed that 101 plus was going to be the pick.
Yep.
I guaranteed that 1,000 plus GPM was going to be the pick.
Although there was only that one game where it was 1064. So it was close.
Yeah, it was close, but it still happened. So I'm taking full credit for it.
I mean, I will too. So
yeah, I'm getting 400 points for it. It's not like I'm getting 300 for, it almost didn't happen. Now I'm getting my full 400 points for that. This one that one ended up getting cut pretty close, huh?
Yeah.
15-12 was the shortest game. And I mean, like, geez, some of those Pugna games on day 1 of the group stages where people were just pushing tier 3s earlier than 15 minutes, I was worried that it was going to end up being, we were going to get like a 13-minute game where they
that 15-12, I was thinking that game was going to be over a minute earlier. I was going, no. And if there were some changes that they've made to shrines that made them a little bit sturdier, and in some ways they've also made them weaker in some other ways, but it was close.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Pugna it was funny seeing how popular Pugna was in the first couple days and how quickly teams just like adjusted.
Yeah, and that's the problem with Pugna is that he does one thing very well, and he has zero escape. That said, I still do think that he is a very good hero, and if you draft correctly, he can just destroy things.
Yeah, I mean, just for those last couple days with Liquid when they were really prioritizing pushing.
Yep,
Pugna is the best pusher in the game, probably.
Pugna's also great against Broodmother.
He is. And just nether blasting spiders, just gone.
Yep. Yeah, if you know that she's going to start hitting your tower because you've got the range. Personally, my personal favorite build on Pugna. This is not something that is good, but I personally like it. Is Pugna with Ags, so that way he can blow up illusions. Because it's on there's no cooldown on his ultimate. Bloodstone, so that way he has no mana concerns, and Aether Lens plus the cast range talent.
Yeah, I was about to say, Aether Lens in my mind is just kind of a must because he's so squishy but so in your face.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people will also say that like if you're playing a pseudo support Pugna, which I don't know how you're going to buy a Heart of Tarask on a support Pugna, but if you buy the Heart of Tarask, then you using your ultimate on an ally, even though it's draining your health, it doesn't count towards turning off the passive from Heart of Tarask.
I never even thought of that.
Yourself up at the same rate that you're pumping out.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I can see that being viable.
Yep.
But anyway,
but again, it's super expensive. So
yeah. This one was very disappointing because I think that the 25 came in on like day 2 of the group stages, and I was just watching this, and it never quite crept up over 26. We had I think we had 22, 23, 24, 25, but no 26.
Yep.
Oh well. 36 plus. You know, I was worrying that I got a little bit high on some of these things, but then there were so many bloodbaths of games that I was just like, okay, yeah, I probably should have gone higher on some of the other categories.
Longest game of the tournament, we both super under. You did 80 to 89. I did 90 to 99, and
I think I said during the video that I could really see this being the longest possible one because I was discussing group game length ahead of the tournament.
Yeah,
just because that's been one of the things I've complained about for a while now. We should have seen that coming.
Yep.
But I'm sure other folks did. 50 to 54 for games played. I was expecting things to be a lot more competitive. I wasn't expecting, for example, LGD and LFY to just steamroll everyone.
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot more competitive teams on the main event stage.
I did too, only I thought it was going to be even more so up to that 55-60 because I thought that we were going to see a full 4 games and then a bunch more 3 games, even though 55 to 60 was pushing it, which I didn't acknowledge at the time, but I thought about it after the fact and said, I'll keep it. So
yeah, and now we switch over to Heroes where you get to brag because you once again did a very good job in my mind.
Yeah, I did the research on this one. So most picked hero, Sand King. Again, the statistics showed that he would be, and if Liquid had not done the run that they did and forced Shaker so freaking much, Sand King would have won.
Yeah,
if Liquid had not played him, if he had been banned out just one more time in one of their games, Sand King would have tied. Therefore, it would have counted as a win for both of them.
Yeah,
look at this jump. It goes Shaker, Sand King, and there was obviously, if you look at the votes, there were some other prediction people that thought that Shaker would be. Shaker's a great hero. He would have been my second pick if I was going with not the open qualifier stats. And then Batrider was a full 7 picks behind. So props there. I'm so proud of my Night Stalker being correct.
Yeah, that was a good call.
Yep. So
great.
Makes a lot of sense too.
40% said that, but still a good call.
But hey, it's because everybody agreed. Same thing. Highest win rate again. Where is Beastmaster on this list? He did not do 7. Well. 7. Oh, okay. He did better than I thought he did then. But yeah, again, this was okay. Which hero is going to get picked 5 games? Exactly 5, and then win all of them. And the answer is Ogre Magi, although it was actually 6. So
Yeah, pretty much.
oh well.
But right idea.
Highest kill average. I wasn't expecting to see PA pop off as much as she did in her 5 or like 10 games. Same thing with Leshrac being up there. Leshrac was not picked at all because it's Leshrac. He's not going to get picked.
Yeah, the idea was basically pick a niche carry that will blow people up and win more often than not. Unfortunately, Slark got picked by C9 a few times.
Yeah, where is Slark?
He might, man, he's got to be low down because, like I said, C9 picked him, and I don't think that they did well with him at any point.
Yes, he might not even made it to 5 games. So highest assist average, Bounty Hunter, by only one.
Well, only one full assist. Point.
Yeah. So we saw
3 in first place, then 16.3 in second place. I'm gonna give you extra for that because it only 6.5% said that would be the case, and he, it was a 0.3 difference between first or second and third. It was a full point between first and second. You get full points for that.
Thank you. For lowest death, we did mention Morphling. We just didn't think that Morphling was going to be quite as popular. Morphling also just had some godlike games.
Yeah, and the idea was a niche carry pick that has great escape mechanisms. Phantom Lancer ended up being a not that niche pick. We saw him picked several times, rarely working out very well.
And often Phantom Lancer was picked as a panic pick.
That's true.
And those just don't work well at TI. No. You got to play your game.
And Morphling, yeah. I mean, he's a niche carry pick with really, really strong escape mechanisms. So
yep. This next one is a hilarious number for highest last average. 49.45% of people were like, yeah, it's going to be anti-mage. It's always anti-mage. And he did so by over 100 last hits per game average.
Which is just hilarious. I mean, it's such a... like all the different ideas of who anti-mage is as a character that you play and who the person is that plays him. It's so fitting that he wins in a landslide. You know what I mean? Just like it's a single player character in a multiplayer game.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean?
And yeah, the numbers say that's exactly correct.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Meepo only got picked once. I am bummed. Yes. We never saw Weepo. We never saw an Abed Meepo. We never saw.
We did see Abed Meepo.
Meepo got played exactly one time, and he got bodied. So
yeah, he did.
Again, highest XPM average. Nobody was going to guess Broodmother because Broodmama was not looking that great. And then look, we're like, oh, by the way, we have this Spiderling in our pocket. So. Again, and even Anti-Mage was right there with her. So if you picked Anti-Mage, I think we mentioned him at the time too. Mm-hmm. Certainly not somebody to feel ashamed of picking. And then Leshrac, I don't know how anybody would have thought that. Most kills in a game, we maybe could have thought about mid player because mid players. And if you look here, mid. I think this was actually a mid Ursa, mid, Faceless Void, mid PA, mid or safe, but a killing safe laner. So, we should have thought about the fact that mid laners are this patch. So
they are, though I should note that as things went on, it was fun seeing how much of a shift there was in terms of it wasn't just make sure your mid player gets a good start. It was really actively try and hold down the opponent's mid player.
Yep.
We saw, by the end we saw 2.5 guys mid on both teams. Like they had their number 4 or number 5 parked mid the entire time, basically, and then would rotate in their other support frequently.
Yep.
And I mean, pretty much everybody did that. So, yeah, I mean, mid players are very important in the current meta.
Yeah, definitely. And then here with most last hits in a game,
Anti-Mage.
Anti-Mage. You knew there was going to be one long ass game with AM. 1,970. He actually got into that's like top 5 of all time.
Yeah, and second place. I'm not going to go up and
pull up the actual number, but yeah.
Second place, he was up by 600.
Yeah.
Which, again,
but it's funny because you look at that, 32%, Naga Siren, 36% voted for her. Yeah, no, she doesn't. She, before the event, because of the illusion nerfs and the radiance difficulties for Naga Siren, I had a feeling we were going to see her played maybe once as a carry, not do well. But again, if you look at like averages, I'm willing to bet that it's significantly lower because she was played as a support. She played as she's 43rd with 223 average because EG played her as a support several times. And they won with her a couple times, so I can't
Yeah.
say she was awful. But Naga's in a weird place right now.
When back in my day, like when I was learning how to play Naga Siren and playing with some relatively high MMR players, like it was Naga support. Like I remember my go-to build for a long time with Naga was like Halberd, mana boots, and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's all about support Naga is a thing and will likely continue to be a thing for a bit. With
always, especially depending on how you manipulate the things around Naga Siren, Manta style, Radiance, general illusion decisions. Those are things that determine whether or not she's a support or a carry.
Yeah.
But yeah, most last hits in a game, it's always going to be an anti-mage.
Almost certainly.
Do note, everybody, that you are going to see a metric buttload of alchemists in your games again because Miracle played him amazingly well. But note that they're going to be awful because they are not Miracle.
That's true.
Like really, like there are so many mechanical things on top of the decisions.
Oh yeah,
that you can't.
Not to say Alchemist is really like a finesse character, but there's some technique there.
There is finesse involved in getting him started, in terms of being able to mechanically hit all of your last hits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, then getting, unless you the way that they play it is max acid, which gives him some team fight presence, some don't push on me presence, some other stuff, and 1 point in greed, and that requires you to have really strong last hitting, which, like you said, Miracle does. The random bum you play with isn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to see a lot of bad alchemists in the next couple months, and we're going to see a lot of people picking Dazzle, saying, no, I'm carry Dazzle. International, there are no supports anymore. Fuck you, buy your own wards.
Yeah, that was something. It doesn't help that Liquid is a team that plays with 1 hard 5 and then 4 carries. Because we've been seeing that so much in our freaking pubs anyways, as it is, that it's just going to get
thanks
worse.
For that, Liquid.
I mean, to be fair, it worked, but great.
Thanks for that, Liquid. You ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, really. So I guess I should change my team effects to Team Liquid for the next week or so.
And I'll quickly go over my fantasy picks because I did.
Yeah, I didn't do mine because I
did very well. I not hit it out of the park for the group stages, but I did very well in the group stages. I got good points each day. I was mired by the fact that I had a lot of silver cards on actually good teams. As you can see, I had VP and OG, who were like the go-to picks for the group stages, all silvers. I don't think I had any golds for VP. Yeah. No golds for VP, no golds for OG, 1 gold for Liquid, 1 gold for EG, none for newbie. So, yeah, I hit it out of the park for the group stages in terms of general strategies. I did well in the first few days of the group or of the main event. I went with TNC a bit more than I should have, kind of expecting them to perform well because they did so well in the group stages fantasy-wise. They did okay even in defeat, but obviously not as well as if they had won. But that was the only real, whoop my bad kind of thing. Group after day 4 though, things fell apart for me a little bit, just because, when you had the guaranteed these teams are playing twice in a day situation, you just have to pick them right. I picked it wrong all 3 days. I was actually expecting Empire to beat Liquid. I figured that Liquid at the time seemed to be ticking down while Empire seemed to be ticking way, way up. And I was expecting Empire to kind of get the better of Liquid because of that. Didn't work out so well. Luckily, I did pick these 2 for supports, so it worked out great for me. And they had that really brutally long game against Virtus Pro, which just inflated their fantasy numbers really, really hard because of wards placed. Yeah. 42 points off of Observer Awards for him.
Yeah, and it's nice because GH does help out. He's not like those, no, you stupid bear on the words. He's not that guy. He does still help, but he also does get a lot of farm.
Yeah, he is a dynamic 4-spot kind of player. He's a playmaker. That would be the label I apply to him. He's a playmaker. He'll take one for the team, but he's still a playmaker first and foremost. But again, bananas fantasy numbers because of that long game. So day 5 of the main event, I expected IG to beat LGD. Didn't work out, and really
Denied.
bit me right here with XXS, giving me, I think, the worst day for a
XSS
fantasy
had
pool.
an awful day.
Yeah. I'm sure at one point he kind of regretted that first ever installation of Warcraft 3.
Yes.
Pretty much.
100%.
My 2 LGD players worked out, but again, I was hoping Invictus Gaming was going to win, and they really did not. Day 5, all LFY. And they posted good numbers in defeat, but it was still defeat, and that's why I end up buried in my among friends rankings. It was because I went, basically part of my logic was, I was subconsciously rooting for Liquid because I wanted Kuroki to win because of that TI3 run with Na'Vi where, they, what was the $1 million dream coil? Is that what they're calling it these days? Or was it the $6 million dream coil?
Well, no, there was the original $1 million dream coil, and that's where the memes then came from after that.
Okay. But yeah, so it was the $1 million dream coil where Na'Vi was just looking very, very good against Alliance. They're pushing for high ground, and they end up getting their base completely exploded, I think, by a Chaos Knight on Bulldog, maybe. But yeah, their base gets blown up because a dream coil comes through and ends up costing them in game 5 of the international finals, ends up costing them the entire tournament. And it just made me feel so bad because Dendi and Kuroki were both very on point that game, and they end up losing, and it was sad. So I'm happy to see him after 7 TIs finally get it. So that's why I picked LFY, because if LFY wins, I go nuts in fantasy. If Liquid wins, I get to just be happy in life. So, ultimately, I did really well until the last 3 days, and then my inability to pick the correct teams kind of bit me. Stop. Hi, folks. So, that's how we did in fantasy and in predictions. Again, pretty well, I would say, all things considered.
Yeah. Now, to note, this does not mean that Dota's over. We are going to hit a bit of a dry spell here in terms of tournaments. A bit of one. We technically do have OCS Champions Division and ROGM Thailand qualifiers going on right now, but those are both minors, like White Rabbit, XTC, XD Gaming, Aperture Gaming, Pulse Gaming, Sinister
online tournaments, and those are kind of meaningless.
And they're also, like, for example,
they don't involve any good teams.
Well, OCS might have good teams, but they're South Africa. It's 8 South African teams.
Yeah.
So, like, they could be great, but they're also playing on the worst servers in Dota. And then ROG Masters Thailand qualifier is just that, a Thailand qualifier. And Team Liquid does not have any upcoming events on their website just yet, because again, this is the month that we take off, so to speak.
But things go from 0 to 60 come the end of September.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of the majors and minors when that stuff.
Let me pull it up on Cyborg Matt's page. Yeah,
I remember where that was because it's buried.
It is.
Hang on. I apparently have the tweet bookmarked because I knew that I was going to want to look at it again.
Smart are you?
The first minor, there are 2 minors almost back to back, 11th to 15th of October and 19th to 22nd of October, Star Ladder, PGL. And then the end of October, 26th to 29th, is the first major, which is ESL. So again, we may see something before then, but that does mean that probably beginning of September, which is only 2 weeks from now, we're going to start seeing qualifiers.
Yep.
And I do know several tier 2 teams that are busting their asses for these because they don't want to miss TI again. I'll put it that way. There's one team in particular that I'm good friends with, and they have several players who had gotten cut just before TI runs. So
yeah. So we are going to see in the first few days, or in the first month of the season, quote unquote, October. It's 3 tournaments, 2 minors, 1 major. Starlighter, PGL, ESL in order. $300,000, $300,000, $1 million. So we're going to see a lot of action, like I said, immediately. But in the next month or so, we're going to see a lot of teams blown up and a lot of new teams form. Which is sad because, the current landscape of the Dota 2 competitive scene is really good in my mind. Even we look over the list of teams who were at TI. I mean, I'll throw hypotheticals at you. Could Cloud9 have done better than they did? I think you would say yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they bombed horribly, so I don't know how.
I mean, they're a team that has had success against some of the other teams that they played against who beat them. They're a team that could have done better. So there's a lot of parity, such that even if they just reran TI7 a bunch of times, we're going to see radically different outcomes, and that's a good thing. It's not like in the NFL where you see the Patriots body everybody every year because they're the best. And it's fun. It's a fun competitive scene as it is right now, and it's going to get blown up. But then we get to have the fun of seeing like the next OG form, because OG formed back after TI5 as monkey business from the corpses of a bunch of other teams. So we're going to see something like that happen, and we're going to see the next team NP. We're going to see, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun, and that's probably what we're going to be talking about for the next couple installments of Your Dota 2 news.
Yep.
Yeah. Do we have anything else we want to talk about?
Not really. That's about it. Again, we're going to see a lot of shakeups here in about a week or two. I figure a lot of teams are going to take some time and just be quiet because a lot of teams looked burned out.
Should note that Planet Odd is already blown up, and just those 5 individual players are all exceptional and are going to find homes.
Yeah. And I really do hope that they do, because that team just they fell apart from the standpoint of things weren't working together anymore. Not that they weren't good. So
they're like I said, all individually excellent players, and they will find new homes.
Yeah,
I would be shocked if any, unless they quote unquote retire.
Yeah,
all 5 of them somewhere.
I could see Misery retiring. I could see Misery being like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm gonna go coach, or I'm gonna go stream, or I could see Misery. I mean, he's been to every GI but this one.
Yeah. But retire so he'll come back in 3 months.
Maybe. I mean, there are rumors that Fear's going to come back.
That wouldn't be shocking.
I wouldn't be surprised at all, quite frankly, especially if. Okay, we're going to do like 5 minutes of brief speculation, and we're going to call it here. E.g., I could see Arteezy leaving. I could see Zai leaving. I could see Crit leaving. I could especially see Arteezy and Crit leaving, because a lot of people were blaming Crit for draft issues. Now, part of that problem is because that the players themselves had shrunk their hero pools in a lot of ways, and and so I think that the team needs. It's not on Crit; it's on the team as a whole. But I think that Crit could get kicked.
Yeah, for sure.
I could see PPD trying to get his way back in there. Again, PPD didn't retire. Sources told me a long time ago that PPD got kicked from the team.
Which makes sense, because if you remember, he did kind of immediately form Wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, Wanted came on and off because he wanted to keep playing, although he did also become CEO and all that jazz, because they're like, hey, we'll keep you on as a manager. Arteezy is a guy that unless Arteezy has matured, which is possible, but unless he has matured enough to the point where he can say, I need to stay on one team and keep fighting for it, I can see Artur looking for a new superstar team. And especially if his contract is up, I could see somebody saying, hey, Arteezy, here's $500,000.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
especially if he thinks the team could do well.
I mean, he's still so fundamentally good a player. He's, even if he gets kicked, and even if he's got a bad attitude, he's got the, which again, I don't necessarily think he's going to get kicked, and I don't necessarily think he has a bad attitude. But even if he did, he's good enough to make up for it. He's good.
Yep. And I just saw on Twitter, actually, Knoxville. Can't wait for the team shuffles now. 16 hours ago, and Pimp Munkle, who I believe was at TI, but since he wasn't working it, he could go around and talk to people because he knows a lot of the players. He said there's some real head shake worthy decisions being made. Not gonna lie. So
that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, but remember, the way that the system works now is all about trying to just get those points. So if you want to split yourselves up across a bunch of majors and minors and then come back together in like 3 months,
yeah,
there's nothing that says you can't.
Yep.
So, I mean, the biggest thing that says that you can't is going to be the orgs, which is, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, they're not going to turn away the best teams. Let's be straight.
Yeah. Well, when I say orgs, I mean like the teams, because like if the team owner says no, like
it's Valve that's going to be legislating things, and because ultimately, even if the new major minor format goes great, ultimately it's still all about TI8.
Yeah. Yep.
So having the threat of saying no, you get to work your way through open qualies from Valve is going to be enough to cow a lot of teams, but we'll see how it goes. It's going to be very interesting, and we're going to see a lot of interesting moves, and it's going to result in new interesting teams. So it'll be fun,
and it's going to be great stuff for us to talk about.
It will be. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you get to see what's going on with us, and follow us on Twitter. I started putting that in the description finally, which I probably should have been doing all along.
Yes, you should have.
I mean, people started complaining in the comments sections because we get people that complain in the comments section now.
You getting there?
Oh, and thank you to our 3 viewers right now, because we've had people bouncing in and out the entire time. But thank you to the people who watch, because we have made our first $1 in YouTube money.
We have made our first YouTube $1, which is actually kind of a big deal. It's really cool. So,
like I said, I have been writing for years with a variety of mainstream outlets, and getting tens or hundreds of thousands of reads on an article I'm dead in that regard. I feel nothing from it.
But seeing
having 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel with $1 in my YouTube bank account, feeling pretty good.
The dude texted me at 2 a.m. Oh my God, we have 45 subscribers. I'm going back to sleep. It was cool, but I was asleep. Like, come on. So, like,
we now have 105 YouTube subscribers, though.
So, shout outs to everybody. We do appreciate it.
And we will text you at 4 a.m. now.
Yep. So,
but thank you. Like, comment, and subscribe if you aren't already. And follow us on Twitter because it's in the description now. So, everybody have a great day. And make sure to tune in next week because, once again, we're going to see a lot of teams get blown up, a lot of teams come together, and then we're going to see a lot of tournaments happen immediately after.
Yep.